Welcome to this review of Mashle chapter 66, Mash Bernadette and the Weight of Revelation. And there are certainly several revelations provided to us in this chapter, not only about Mash but about Wahlberg, Adam, Father, and Cell War, all things which are very interesting facts which open up a whole new and intrigue pathways for progression and world building. So, it starts off giving us more insight to Adam, a character we only got introduced to recently, which surprises me. I thought we were not going to get more on this figure for a little while yet, and this inclusion makes me think that it is here because in the future there may not be a chance for such a backstory reveal. So, we get to see a gentleman in his later years named Adam Jobs, who we are told was the most powerful magic user which the world had seen in centuries. Beyond just his immense magical power, he also held significant political sway, being involved in the magic education system, the establishment of the Bureau, but much of his later life was spent openly assisting those who are unable to use magic, which is very much against what I was expecting from this character given how the society is ran, but it also gives context that despite the efforts of a man so powerful, with so much influence, perhaps even he couldn't change the bias against those without magic, or perhaps the stance on them went under drastic reform after his death. Either way, this marks him as being remarkably different to almost every other powerful magic user in the setting, as he openly works to help those without magic, while knowing that they are incapable of it. The only other figures like him are Wahlberg and perhaps Rain. Adam believed that the strong should serve the weak, believing in the idea of noblesse oblige, and he left that ideal to his three pupils, one of which was Wahlberg, the another was likely Father, and the third is currently unknown, although I do have a theory on them, but I'll save that topic for another time as we move back to the present scene with Wahlberg and the coffin where the chains on it have broken and it's opening up to reveal a stack of what look like roses, and unsurprisingly for me at least, Adam pops out, something which understandable alarms Wahlberg. Father brags about how he finally acquired the power to resurrect the dead from a fragment of flesh, implying that he didn't require the entire body, which I assume was either burned or buried somewhere under special protection, and its disappearance would probably cause an uproar. However, his resurrection magic is not perfect, as it does not bring the mind or presumable the soul back to the body. And then we get introduced to another member of Innocent Zero, resembling a hunchbacked monk or priest figure wearing a necklace made of screaming skulls and having threads emerging from his fingertips. This individual is named Necrosmance, and he is going to be in control of the body, claiming that Wahlberg won't even notice the difference, which I seriously doubt, because if anime and manga have taught me anything, mainly Naruto, zombified characters lacking their own memories and will are far less effective than their living counterparts. Anyway, Wahlberg, understandable angered by this, questions Father and Necros how far they intend to push him before the body of Adam releases a powerful wave of what I assume to be raw magic from his entire body. It does create a rather cool image with Wahlberg being surrounded by a mostly white background, his hair being blown about by the mystical power of his once master while shockwave lines fly past him. It's all very cool looking. Father, however, does not seem the least bit fazed by it, however, and continues to talk about how even with Adam's power and long life he couldn't fight the natural process of aging and deteriorating, but he has managed to restore his body to its prime and even preserve his top-class magic power. And then, just to drive home how either deluded or just cruel Father is, he mentions how Adam was fond of Wahlberg and shouldn't he be happy to see him, which honestly, resurrecting the dead to fight against their friends, family or loved ones is low already, but the fact that Father is openly mocking Wahlberg to his face about it just solidifies his lack of respect for both his old master and the sanctity of the soul. And as Wahlberg is holding himself against the overflowing magic power, we get a flashback to a much younger looking Wahlberg wearing a suit and his long hair tied up in a ponytail. He is questioning the worth of Adam's noblesse oblige policy, saying it is a policy that those who don't feel like striving can use to gain protection from others, a rather cold but analytical statement, detached from emotional or perhaps humane beliefs. This presents Wahlberg at this point in time as someone who has yet to learn the value of protecting those weaker than himself. Adam even concedes that he has a point, and responds with his own question on what purpose is there in giving themselves for others. But before he finishes that statement he comedically calls Wahlberg an idiot while raising his fists, and small puffs of steam seem to be coming out of his head, yelling about who told him to debate with his master, before rather dramatically asking if he is planning on usurping him, to which Wahlberg replies with what I assume to be a very serious but uncertain tone. Adam however laughs it off, telling Wahlberg to stop frowning as he was only teasing him, and then he proceeds to continue his teasing, saying how it is fine if he does not understand because he is too young, before laughing in a rather arrogant way, the sort of laugh someone gives when they are making fun of another person. But then he transitions to speaking in a manner of a wise individual who believes in his pupil, saying that one day Wahlberg will understand because he is strong. Returning to the present, Wahlberg swing his wand out in front of himself to counter the magic which was flowing out from Adam's body. Father notices this and seems to be slightly interested, while Wahlberg's eyes closed, in perhaps remembrance or to strengthen his resolve for what he is about to do. He speaks on how, despite his master being the greatest man he ever met, he can't have mercy for he values the present, and as he is now the strongest, the present is his to protect. We then get another cool image of Wahlberg holding out his staff in front of himself with what looks like a small sun in the center and his marvelous beard blowing in the wind. But yet again we must move away from the fight to another important part of this chapter, a conversation going on between Mash and Selwar. And Mash asks a question which we already know part of the answer to, that being why he is being targeted, and surprisingly Selwar gives us what appears to be an actual true answer, which is both intriguing and disturbing. It seems this story is really taking a turn for the more serious side. The truth is that there exists a forbidden magic called body construction, a dark magic which creates an immortal heart from the heart of 6 relatives. As Sel explains this, we get an image of what looks like an alchemical circle with 6 people being directed to the center with a heart. Mash gives a surprisingly deadpan look to what is honestly kind of horrifying information. I know he doesn't react like a normal person usually, but normally when he learns something like this he at least doesn't deadpan. But following Mash's lack of reaction, Sel continues to explain that father prepared 6 different children to be raised as vessel for their hearts, so he created Mash for the purpose of creating his perfect body. So in Selwar's mind Mash only exists for his parts. Now Mash reacts, but his face is still comedically drawn, but at least it is something. Selwar continues to speak on how Mash should feel happy and honored to become part of a nearly godlike being, an interesting way of saying that he will be a sacrifice to increase the power of a child murderer who happily puts innocent lives at risk for the sake of his goals. Mash, with his muscle-obsessed brain, relates it to him being the protein needed to build muscle, to which Selwar gives him a rather blank look, and Mash responds with that being heavy. All the while having his same cartoonish expression, Mash looks away, contemplating how his life was. Well, whatever he was thinking goes unsaid as he rolls up in a suddenly appearing futon trying to go to sleep. Selwar rather bluntly tells him to get up, to which Mash responds that he was hoping that it would all turn out to be a dream. Then he asks a question which I honestly wasn't thinking about, that being if he and Selwar are siblings, I suppose he was assuming that he might have been one of the other children father created for his ritual. But Selwar, being even more weird, explains that he is just a clone that was created when father gave his blood to a corpse. Who the person was before we have no idea, but Selwar believes he only exists to help father achieve his goals. He then starts to have a breakdown, saying how it is the greatest honor to become part of father's body, but he chose to use Mash, who in Selwar's option is a waste of space, so he should be happy that his worthless life had some use. So now he is going to beat him half to. His threat goes unfinished as Mash punches him in the face. Selwar, as he is getting hit, he thinks on how he was not done talking, but it does not matter as he gets knocked to the ground yet again. Mash staring down at him and states that it does not matter if his life has some deeper meaning or not, but he is unstoppable, so he'll have to give him his best shot. Selwar, still capable of pulling himself up despite being smacked by Mash several times, now thinks about how he should not fall for Mash's taunting, but he did manage to make him bleed. Another line forms down Selwar's face, a third line forming down from his left eye as he states that he will open strong. Mash once again cartoonishly drawn tells him to bring it. To which Selwar awaken the power of the god living within his wand, and that god is Hephaestus, who here is called the god of iron, which is a vast oversimplification of his divine authority, but it does fit Selwar quite well. So this chapter gave us more backstory, explained what father intends to use Mash for exactly, and also introduced the fact that Mash potentially has 5 other siblings, who may or may not be members of Innocent Zero or become allies in the future once Mash no doubt rescues them from father's plan to murder them in cold blood. This brings the question of, how, if Mash is so important to father's plan, did he become lost? That is, assuming he was lost and not stolen away from him, and also why can't a replacement be created to replace him so father might fulfill his plan without unrequired risks. But perhaps we might learn about that in the future. Overall, this chapter lived up to its title. There certainly was several revelations for us to unpack. So that is the chapter done. Thank you for sticking around to listen to my review. I have been the Anonymous Weeb, and have a good day or night wherever you are.